Hello everyone, Sable here back again covering UUCL. And this time we're into week 2 where we actually got 4 matches again this week and all 4 got played, which is pretty awesome. So I decided the first one I'd cover would include one of the participants who did not play last week. I was meant to play Phil last week, but just didn't pan out for a reason, so activity got called. It didn't really affect the standings, but it does matter a little bit for game differential, which is the tiebreaker if teams end up with the same win, loss, draw for playoffs. So, anyway, I forgot to introduce the teams that each player was on last time, so let me make that up here. Phil on Vanilluxe Iced Latte and Maris on Gilderoy Lokix. The worst, like, why are we doing Harry Potter references in 2025? Let me be upset about it. Anyway, so Phil, despite the name she, they, so don't get confused when I'm using those pronouns throughout this. Phil, newer to RBY for sure, plays a bunch of low tiers across a couple of gens as I've seen, but definitely has been playing a fair bit more RBY lately with UU, PU, other stuff like that. She's definitely a bit eccentric in the builder. I'm not sure how that's going to pan out in this new meta, but it could really go either way, so I'm going to be interested to see how that goes. Maris coming off a win last week, so did pretty well there, ran some really unorthodox stuff. No clue how that's going to go this week, I would say, in terms of who I'd favor to win. I'd probably expect Maris to win on average, but it really can go either way, and we're all figuring out the meta still in this point in it. I mean, we've played one match at most each in tournament conditions by this point, although there at the time that this match started, there was a UU individual starting, so people are maybe getting a little more practice through that. I know Maris and I are both in that one among other people. So let's see how it goes and just jump right in. Venomoth. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that as for a second. So Venomoth, what this offers is it's the fastest 75% accuracy sleeper. It's still slower than Haunter, which really sucks. And it's pretty much fully walled by any psychic type because it hits pathetically with its own psychic and double edge is not very good. The exception is Kadabra. You can actually, stupidly enough, Venomoth Psychic into Hyper Beam will take out Kadabra like a respectable amount of the time. Kadabra is just so ridiculously frail. I can't remember exactly how low you have to get it, but you can like get a drop and do that. But also just Stun Spore is a threat to every fast Pokemon. Now, the problem here is you're slower than Kadabra and you're risking getting O-code by a crit, or if you just miss the powder one time, you just lose this matchup. So definitely not like the ideal Venomoth lead matchup. It's definitely fishing for something slower than it or something that just can't do any damage to it. I don't know if I love it in this metagame where so many of the leads are fire types. Electabuzz has Psychic, which isn't going to 2-hit KO it or anything, but still a bit of a threat. You could get dropped and miss a Sleep Powder. Kadabra, also a threatening lead for it. Like, I don't think there's too many places where Venomoth is happy in this current, like in the lead. It probably gets in pretty okay on Lapras. So you can like use it as a Lapras switch in that forces sleep, but I don't think I'd put it in the lead. And we'll see how this plays out. Probably going to go for it anyway. And Mara's just clicking Thunderwave and getting a para. So this is very ideal because now Venomoth only has a 55% chance to even hit. Psychic drop doesn't hit it. So yeah, like Venomoth lead, not really the ideal start into Kadabra. Seismic Toss from Maris catches, like it's a good mid ground that catches Kadabra or Hypno coming in. Toss from Phil, so maybe expecting like a Golem or a Dugtrio switch in. And Mara's just happy to keep trading down. Or maybe Phil just not wanting to block sleep if there's another sleeper, which probably is. And Mara's going for pressure immediately with Kang. Usually you expect Kadabra to recover after taking a Seismic Toss. At 30, it's risky because you can just lose the tie and die, but like if you do recover, you get out of range of the next toss by a little bit, so it's understandable to click it there. So Kang can come in and inflict a lot of pressure. If it does manage to recover, like any normal type Hyper Beam one-shots Kadabra anyway, so pretty safe. I'm expecting Mars is just going to keep attacking and pressure this Lapras. As long as you don't get hit with Sing or something, or get frozen by I had to talk. So I was gonna say, as long as it didn't get frozen, Slam Beam is already like 60% of a Lapras gone, which is a pretty good start here, but now it's a lot iffier. Raichu in, so just trying to keep the pressure on, not really afraid of Sing, and Dugtrio might be a big problem for Maris here, it's hard to say. So if it gets a crit here, that'd be good. Oof, not sub. Okay, Lapras can just like click Sing, honestly, but that's a big crit. No, not gonna go for that. Just gonna take the consistent route here. And another slam. So sacking Kadabra, which I think is probably the right call. Like you don't really want to switch into a Lapras anything right now. And Raichu in, but doesn't actually get the KO from here. Kind of a hmm. I was gonna say, I feel like if you have a coverage move that isn't Surf, you could click it here because that and the T-Bolt will KO Lapras anyway, and you cover for the potential Raichu coming in on T-Bolt as well as like a ground type, really just Dugtrio. But Dug in is scary here because like Lapras is lowish. I accidentally like kind of skipped over that, so I'm gonna come back to it. But what happens here is the Slowbro comes in and eats a crit on entry, so doesn't even do half, but on the flip side, like a lot of Slowbros don't run Surf because it just you get walled by Lapras so badly. Mara's not risking it here, but baiting the seismic toss or catching the seismic toss, I should say. And Sing misses. This Lapras might just get sacked off, but she's willing to make the call out that Phil's not going to click a move like Surf here, and Phil actually does click it, so gutsy click. But I think this Dugtrio might get enough value anyway just by staying in and attacking at this point. Yeah, so Lapras now in Raichu range, Slowbro in Raichu range. Dugtrio could get called out by a Surf and just go down. Agility Raichu would be sick here. It would pretty much win as long as this Raichu goes down. And Mara's sending out Hypno to get the Revenge KO on Lapras. I think that's really smart because Slowbro can't come in, Sleep is open. If Dugtrio comes in, you remove a big problem for your Lapras. If Raichu comes in, you paralyze it and then do a bunch of damage to it, and then Raichu can win this game by itself. So Phil sending Doug, which I think is probably the right guy to send here. And Mara's not even playing around with Hypnosis, which I agree with. You just take your damage, take this thing out, remove a big obstacle for your Raichu. And even after that, like this Hypno's not even in Raichu range if it doesn't have like Hyper Beam or something. So as long as you wave this and get one hit afterward, you pretty much win. And there's still a Kadabra in back, which I should have kept in mind. But a nice call out with that T-Bolt. And now I think the win path for Maris here is actually just to send the Raichu, trade down the Raichus, and then you've got two things faster than Slowbro that both have a sleep move. And one of them also has T-Bolt. So like you have ways to beat the Slowbro. Wow, okay, going hard Lapras. And that's an agility. Ooh, okay. So I do wonder what the idea was with the hard Lapras there. If it's to just paralyze this, get Hypno in, and try to get some damage, and then save the Raichu to kill Slowbro at the end. But either way, that's going to be the Lapras down, and now Hypno has to come into a faster Raichu if that's the play. Yeah, and I mean, you can't switch to Slowbro without T-waving this first because of the situation. But actually, she wants to rest it and just trust that the Raichu will para more than it's going to crit. And Phil taking advantage, going to Slowbro. This is pretty much the most free T-Wave turn. But then after that, it's all prediction mind games. And I don't know why that was a seismic toss. Okay, I think that surely the Slowbro has T-Wave. Oh, that crit psychic's brutal. I don't think the Slowbro has T-Wave. Oh goodness, this is not ideal. And two crits is a little unlucky for Phil, but ultimately I don't like what this Slowbro set is implying about the team. And even without the crit, that was not looking good for Raichu after any damage versus this opposing Raichu. Bit of a lucky para, but I don't think that's going to be enough to bail you out here, even without this full para. And we'll see. Probably going to KO the Hypno, and then you lose to the opposing Raichu, which, if it's like last game, this could just have Hyper Beam, but Surf should do it from here anyway. Yep, that crit didn't matter at all. Surf would have KO'd regardless. So Maris winning this. I want to look at the teams for a second. I think Phil's team is frail. That's, I guess, the word I'd use to characterize it. If Golem ever gets in once, you are losing half a Lapras or a third of a Slowbro. If it gets in again, you are losing a Pokemon every single time it enters because nothing is switching into this guy. Kadabra, Frail, Dugtrio, Frail, Raichu, Frail, and of course just gets obliterated by Earthquake. I don't think I like this setup here. And also just like you're relying on lead Venomoth to be the only thing that can get sleep. It's it's just a lot of risk. And I think with this much para on the team between these four guys, surely you want to like try to enable some physical attackers that aren't Dugtrio, like Kangaskhan, Golem, whatever. But I think like obviously putting a Golem here just makes his team incredibly slow, so I don't think that quite works without reshuffling some other stuff. But I think just the damage isn't there on Phil's team the way that it's currently set up, and the bulk isn't there either. On Maris's side, I think there's like enough paralysis. Doesn't seem to be. I'm not even sure if this is running hypnosis. I mean, I assume it probably is, but maybe it's not. You've got Sing on Lapras, there's some sleep, there's a decent amount of physical offense, decent amount of special offense. Like, I think she's got her bases covered as much as you can in this tier, although you're always weak to something. So, I don't know. I can't, it's hard to come up with criticisms. It's just like a very fundamentally solid team. She's not doing anything as wacky as week one, and it worked out here. So, game one goes to her. And game two, let's hop in and see. Dodrio, Electrode. Okay. So off the bat, when I see this, what I'm thinking that she's doing in back is going to have something that can switch into the problem matchups because this is baiting Electrics, this is baiting Golem, this is even to an extent baiting Dugtrio. So I assume she's going to have some kind of answer for those in back if she's running this. I also assume she's going to have a second Electric type, which given what she's been running so far this tournament, my default guess is actually going to be Raichu. On Phil's side, could be anything. I really hope there is something that can switch into this Electrode because this is a very bad lead matchup. And there's Tangela. Okay, that's a pretty ideal switch, although I wouldn't be surprised to see Maris just click Boom right away here. Funnily enough, Tangela, a bit of a Maris mascot Pokemon, so kind of funny to see it on the other end here. And Maris content to just absorb sleep, which I think does make sense with Hypno and Lapras everywhere in this tier. Like, just booming it doesn't actually prevent sleep, and it just leaves something else on your team open to sleep. So she just sacks this to sleep, and I think Bill maybe could have played around that and forced, just like by hitting it with Body Slam over and over, just forced it to become a non-threat and not be able to tank that sleep, but just taking the sleep and then getting out to Kadabra immediately. Kadabra versus Lapras, definitely an advantaged matchup, but Sing is scary. And I wouldn't have switched out there. I think you have to just T-Wave this and go for the pressure. Now you lost a whole Lapras, and now you're just so behind. If I'm in Maris's shoes, I'm just slamming here to catch the Kadabra coming back in, and that's exactly what she does. And now this Kadabra is under ridiculous pressure. I think you just have to T-Wave this Lapras, and I don't know why Phil is not doing that, because now if this para, this is over, and even if it doesn't, like, you dropped it, you have to just keep hitting. Like, you can't recover spam because you're going to eat paralysis before you get out of Body Slam range. So good that she ends up realizing that and actually attacks the Lapras. Hypno in. Hypno threatening, well, not threatening sleep because the sleep's on the Electrode, but could have been threatening sleep there if the Tangela had just hit the Electrode. And funnily enough, Phil forgot about that too. So that's just a free turn given away, and now this is unideal. Mara's showing a lot of Mono-Psychic Hypno, and I have to assume, like, Psy, T-Wave, Rest, but really not showing what those last moves are. Really just playing for consistency on these, although playing a little more weird, aggressive with other stuff like that Thunder Raichu last week. And now the Hypno's just psychicking each other down. Mara's trying to get a little more value out of the Lapras by sending it in on a -1 Hypno. And looks like the value is going to be there, and then this will just get sacked off to Dodrio or something. Yep, Dodrio comes in, picks off the Lapras. Now, the thing I'm wondering is if this is double Elec, you still don't love this Tangela being here. I'd say probably like Electabuzz or more physically oriented Raichu with Body Slam Hyper Beam are really the ones that can hit Tangela. But I don't know how physically oriented a Raichu will be if she has one, and she hasn't really used Electabuzz yet that I've seen. I do wonder what's going to come in on this Dodrio. That's going to be Kang. Pretty good answer. You can 2-hit KO it. And Tangela getting sacked off. Oof, just raw counter. That's a pretty funny play because I think I was saying the last time I saw Dodrio versus Kang that you don't need to click Drill Peck because who clicks counter anymore when Dodrio always ends up clicking Drill Peck. But I think it's a bit different at full HP with Kang because the Dodrio is less likely to be inclined to take that fight. And Maris calling it correctly, and that actually gets the KO on Tang instead of having to risk like a Stun Spore or something. So now Raichu coming out from Phil's side, I don't think that's very ideal because like it's not very good in a Kang, the crit notwithstanding, of course. But even so, like as long as this Raichu goes down, I think that this looks really bad with the Lapras down. So Hypno comes in, probably just gonna T-Wave Psychic once. Wonder if it's another Agility Raichu coming here. If it is, I'd expect the setup now, but that -1 is brutal regardless. Here's the Agility. I'm not even sure T-Bolt kills after that. It does not. But a crit works out. So Raichu's now fast and very weak. So very reliant on crits. And there's a second electric from Maris, as it turns out. Hyper Beam. Ooh, that's a big crit. So this is just down to now. Dodrio has to win this speed tie and then beat the last. If it loses the speed tie, it's not KO'd, but it's not ideal. There it is. Okay, so Phil loses this one. I think the big mistake was really pivoting the Lapras in and just forfeits. I think it's just really down to pivoting that Lapras into the opposing Lapras. You have to expect a sing click. You have to expect a lot of things can go wrong there. Lapras is just so scary. But when you have Kadabra in on Lapras, it's a pretty ideal situation. You can T-wave it and pressure it, and Sing only has a 40% accuracy through Para. Like, you have to take those. It's less than 40% through Para. Just take those odds. Push it as hard as you can. And yeah. So I think there was a mistake there and not just going for that with Kadabra. I think losing the whole Lapras pretty much made this game unwinnable. Beyond that, I don't hate the teams at all. I do kind of question running Tangela as a general rule. Like, if you're going to run it, I would assume it would be on a team that didn't have two other perfectly competent sleepers in the back in Lapras and Hypno that can find that sleep on a lot of targets. And I don't like, I get that you want to pad your team against Doug Trio because Kadabra, Raichu are very weak to it, but like that's what stuff like Dragonite is for, in my opinion. So I don't know if I like it on this particular team structure. Maris's team very clearly like overwhelming on the electric front. Does like it has options if you just get that golem in turn one, like Hypno or a Lapras can switch in one time and do some stuff. Maybe she has something a lot more golem resistant as that 6th slot here. Who knows? Like, I would think of even running like a Dragonite or something on this team, Gyarados, a few guys that can kind of make Earthquake harder to click and make it a bit more of a toss-up so that you can get in Hypno or whoever on Rock Slides, which is not as quite as bad as coming in on an Earthquake. But Double Elec looks pretty scary in this metagame. Phil actually did have the answer with the Tangela, so maybe this was a scout-related thing. And it makes sense with the amount of Raichu that Maris brings. But ultimately, I think sleeping the Electrode was also maybe a bit of a misplay. An understandable thing, but I think you don't always want to take your sleeps when you have the most obvious target in front of you. So here it didn't work out. Maris wins, and for Phil, unfortunately, she's 0-2 as a result of the activity win, but 0-1 in terms of actual games played. And Maris up to a cool 2-0, so good for her, and that's about it for this one. So let me know what you think, leave a comment, like or subscribe to give me the dopamine button. And if you have any thoughts on things I should cover, things I should talk about, I'm open to doing videos that aren't just on covering games and team tournaments. Let me know. I'm going to start covering RBY Grand Slam whenever either I go out of it or if I win it, and that's only a 3-week playoff, so should be over pretty soon, so keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.